Well, it was perhaps the most complete effort in the Pascal Janssen era, and now it's New England on the road next as New York City seeks their first win away from home. The U.S. Open Cup draw is out, and agony for a former New York City forward. That's all coming up. NYCFC Views live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy.
Tiene el tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. We're here every week. On occasion, we'll put out a second one during the week, but I don't know. Have we done that recently? Anyway, that's Roberto Abramowitz. I'm Glenn Crooks, and we've got your radio commentary coming up on Saturday on the road against the New England Revolution, the revved up Revolution. They've won 2 games, 2 of their last 3, so they're all pumped up. So, Roberto, before we get into all this New York City stuff, so as we are live, we can talk about current events and something that just ended about an hour ago, and it really made me sad to watch this whole thing. So Tati Castellanos for Lazio, they're in the Europa League quarterfinals, and it's an important event, this Europa League, to give them the opportunity for Champions League, because it doesn't look like it's going to happen based on their Serie A standing. But Tati scored this, and we're not allowed to show the clip, but he scored this unbelievable backheel goal, the one where you let it run past the front foot, and then you kind of the timing of it and the shot. Sebastian Berhalter, remember he did that one for Vancouver. It was very similar to that. And for Liverpool fans, they'll remember Darwin Nunez against Real Madrid in the Champions League a couple of years ago. But anyway, so he had this great goal, and if we fast forward, because I don't want to spend too much time on the game, he took the 5th penalty for Lazio to keep it going, to keep the penalty shootout going, and he had it saved. And that's the way it ended for Lazio. Ugh.
Oh, so he took it. I thought he was taken out of the game. How did that happen? I was watching the Man United game.
He was cramped. He was severely cramped, but he stayed in the game. He was limping around. He was still involved, and that's what's kind of interesting about him taking it as well, is because he wasn't feeling. He was definitely not at 100%, but I'm sure he told the coach, "I'm taking the kick, man."
Yeah, because it was at some point I was looking at the stats on FotMob, and I saw that he had left the game like in the 76th minute or something like that. I don't know where I saw that. But I guess they made a mistake and then they corrected it. So, yeah, I left it because I had to come home. I was watching it at the place near my house, Cabrini 181. Cool place, by the way. Big TVs, lots of soccer, good stuff. Come on down if you're ever in the Heights and watch some soccer over there. They're like all sorts of footy. They do have Apple TV, by the way. So if you want to watch MLS, you can do that too.
Or MLS Next Pro. Or MLS Next Academy teams. Yeah. Okay, good.
That as well. So I was watching there, and then after the Man United game, I had to leave because I wanted to get here and get some of my notes together before we did this. But, the Man United game was crazy. But they were down, I guess it was 3-1 in penalty kicks. They had just missed 2 in a row, and then at that point, I bolted out. So now you're giving me news because I didn't know what happened as I've been home, doing some research for today.
Well, that Manchester United game was also pretty crazy. I didn't watch a speck of that because and every now and then I like to see these former guys and see what they're doing. And Tati's just leading the front line as he has all season long. But it was that's rugged. Penalty shootout. There's a book called Pressure, written by Geir Jordet, who is friends with Ronny Deila and worked with Deila's teams when he was over in Norway. And by the way, the Bodo Glimt team is Norwegian. It's the first Norwegian team to get the semifinals of a European event ever.
That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty nuts. So they're going.
And they did it on the road. I mean, give them a ton of credit.
Yeah.
Going into a place like that and winning that game. I mean, it's like, give them credit.
That's a severe atmosphere there. But anyway, this book, Pressure, is written. It's entirely about the pressure of taking penalty kick shootouts, both for the taker and also for the goalkeeper. And it's research based. He's interviewed hundreds of players, but also has tracked penalties since 1974. So it's really a pretty crazy thorough analysis of the penalty kick shootout. As a side note, I recommended it to Pablo Mastroeni, who I was fortunate enough to chat with when I was out at preseason at Coachella. And I believe it's the last 3 years they've lost in penalties in the playoffs, at least the last 2 years. So I said, you need this book, dude, because, it's got some good tips in it. So I have no idea if he read it. What are you reading? I see you reading.
Just my stats, getting my game notes up here, because I've got two computers, so I did it in one, and so now I have to bring it up in the other one. So
so again, working currently, U.S. Open Cup pairings came out today too. So I thought we'd just before we hop into the game at Philadelphia and New England, what they're doing. So New York City travels to Pittsburgh to play the Riverhounds. Very cool facility, Roberto. This place, it's right along the river. I've been there a couple of times when I was recruiting for Rutgers. In fact, a player from that club came. But it's going to be an interesting test, because I'll tell you what, this guy Bob Lilly, who coaches the Riverhounds, he's a pretty legendary figure for these second-tier teams. He used to coach the Rochester Rhinos.
Mm-hmm.
He used to coach the Vancouver Whitecaps before they became an MLS team. And now he's done a great job with Pittsburgh. I mean, they've won the Supporters Shield or whatever they call the Shield in the USL Championship. But when he joined Pittsburgh, one of the things that's really interesting about Bob, his assistant is a guy he's been friends with like for a long, long time, Mark Pulisic, Christian's father, he was a soccer guy, he was a coach. So and Bob's been a guest on my other show a couple of times too. He's here's what he does, Roberto, and this is what I'll be interested in. And it's May 7th, right? Yeah, I know you put that out there. Is it May 7th?
Yeah, May 7th. They're going to play on Wednesday. It's already been officially confirmed, 7 p.m.
Okay.
Up in Pittsburgh. So if you want to take the drive, it's about depending on the time of day that you go, but it's somewhere from Manhattan. It's somewhere along the hours, along anywhere between 6.5 hours.
Yeah. From where I am, it's about 5.5 to 6. So either way, it's that's not that bad a drive. Seriously,
no, it could be worse.
And honestly, for anybody considering it, Pittsburgh is a very cool town.
That's what I'm hearing.
Area. So if it's a nice enough day, even if it's not, I guess I'm going to recommend to anybody going to this game. I would say. Because the game kicks off at 7 in the evening. During the day, take the riverboat cruise. It's like a sightseeing thing, but it's worth it because you get some information, the Roberto Clemente stuff, and the first radio station in our history was in Pittsburgh, and they'll show you where that is and how
it wasn't WKRP in Cincinnati. I'm shocked.
No, that was the second. But I did it when I went out there recruiting. I went on this cruise. I said, man, I'm going to recommend this to anybody who comes out here and doesn't really know anything about Pittsburgh, which was me.
Yeah.
And so that's that. So that's May 7th. New England, the New York City's next opponent, they'll be at Rhode Island. So I'm glad these lower level clubs are hosting. It'll create
which is great. I want to see that all the time. I want to see that all the time, Glenn. I've made this point in the past, and I will make it again. It is better for soccer in this country that MLS teams do not host any team in a lower league. They've got to go and play it there. It benefits everything in soccer. It benefits MLS for sure. The fact that they're going and showcasing themselves, although we know that they're not going to have their 100% first team playing, and that's either by design by each team or by the fact that just the rules are different, and you have to have more Americans on the field than what MLS does. You don't have to have any Americans on the field for an MLS game, but for you do have to have that in the U.S. Open Cup. So, you might, you're going to see some different players and all that, but I think it's a great way for MLS to be able to showcase itself throughout the country. And I think that that's better for soccer. You want to have the team in the top league be able to go and show the brand.
And the Red Bulls, just for edification purposes, will be in Colorado to play the Switchbacks. So everybody's going on the road. And so that's coming up in May. So let's
all those games also, remember, all those games are now on television as well. What is it? Was it CBS, right? CBS, Paramount CBS picked up all those U.S. Open Cup games.
Yeah.
So that will be that. And we still don't know if we're doing radio yet or not. That is still to be determined.
The U.S. Open Cup, the U.S. Open Cup has no specific requirement mandating a certain number of American players to be on the field during matches. Now, it may have used to been, but maybe.
Okay, so that changed then. All right, sorry for not knowing that. I apologize.
How it continues. However, individual clubs may have their own policies or preferences regarding player. Whatever. Okay.
It used to be that they were. It used to be that they had a certain amount of Americans on. All right, so that switched. Okay.
Well, a Costa Rican scored the only goal in the match at Citi Field. First home match at Citi Field this year for New York City as they beat the Philadelphia Union 1-0. And as I said in the intro, and I don't know if you agree with me, Roberto, because I don't know how much we've actually talked about this, but that's why we're here. That's why we're here now.
We don't rehearse this stuff, folks. It comes out as it comes out. Sometimes we surprise each other.
It was the best looking. It was the best looking match of the year for them, I think.
That was solid.
And feel the whole thing, the feel, everything. Yeah.
Especially defensively. Obviously, Philadelphia without Gazdag is a different animal, and they have to get used to playing that way now. But it just never felt that Philadelphia created any meaningful chance on goal, and that it was a pretty secure defensive effort for Matt Freese and the team in front of him. And I think also that part of the reason is that, how the front six played. And or rather the back six, I mean to say. And we're talking Ilinic, Martins, Hack, O'Toole, and then Shore with Keaton Parks. I mean, they were solid. They were very, very solid. And I mean, the way I look at the team, and I think I'd be shocked if there's any sort of changes for the game against New England, because that was pretty much the best team that New York City can put on the field right now.
And that's, you just said the back and the midfield, and Maxi, Hannes Wolf, Agustino Ojeda, and Alonso Martinez, who scored his fifth goal in the first 7 matches for him. He was away for a match with the Costa Rica national team. So he became the 4th New York City player to have at least 5 goals over the first 7 games. We've already done this trivia amongst ourselves and the broadcast crew, but that's one to ponder if you haven't seen it. Tati Castellanos is one of them. So we talked about Tati earlier, and we should just say it. David Villa, that you would guess that, but the other one you wouldn't. So I'll give people for the third one, give you a little time, and if you are watching and you want to throw it in the comments, your guesses, go ahead. I don't have any prizes for you, sorry, but
no more Raquinho cards. So
we'll give you proper recognition if you get the right response here. We said Tati, Villa, Alonso Martinez, and then there's one other who scored at least 5 in the first 7. And this was Roberto Abramowitz's call of that goal on the New York City FC network on the Spanish side, followed by my call on the English side. So there you go. Go ahead, Shane.
Un balón largo, este va para Martínez. Martínez le va a llegar, se lleva al portero, tira. ¡Gol!
All right. Now you go to mine.
Excited.
Shane. Yeah, it's always exciting. You do not have the other one, Shane? Is that what you're...
Martinez beats the keeper, and it's an open goal, and it's New York City with a 1-0 lead. Andrew Rick came well out of his goal, Alonso Martinez easily beat him to the ball and just tapped it around the keeper and just gently, with the inside of his right foot, put it into the goal. The angle was becoming more and more acute as he let it run, but no problem for Alonso Martinez with his 5th of the season, and New York City in the 56th minute lead Philadelphia 1-0.
This is just a ball played into space from Micha Ilinic, isn't it? It's not played to a man, it's just played in behind the defence, and Alonso Martinez pounces. And what did Phil Wedden tell us before the game? What do young goalkeepers struggle with? Decision making.
Yep, Phil Wedden's the keeper coach for Philadelphia. He's 19 years old. Not a good decision. And Micha Ilinic, great decision. If there's space behind the defense and they're playing a high line, just play the ball into space, baby. I mean,
and Martinez is going to catch it. Martinez is fast. He plays very well, in the line where he doesn't get himself offside too often. I mean, he plays that really, really well. And that pass was just exquisite. And he's just so cool, calm, and collected, Martinez. And, the minute he got that ball, I was like, yeah, he's going to score this. I know he's going to score this. I mean, I have no idea what Rick was doing, coming all the way out like that. I mean, he exposed himself. And once he did that, and if he doesn't get the ball, he's done. At least he didn't commit, like a penalty or take him down, get red carded, that sort of stuff.
That was
At
coming.
least he didn't do that.
No, that was coming. It looked like a definite collision. And yeah, you talk about being cool, and this is what I talked about today with Pascal Janssen, New York City head coach. This is part of the pregame show, but we talked about Alonso Martinez. To bring him up every pregame show, but he's a guy that's producing 5 goals in 7 matches. He's an interesting guy. I mean, from my getting to know him a little bit, we can't really speak too much to each other. He doesn't know much English. I don't know much Spanish. I don't know any Spanish. So, but he seems very, not just confident, but cool. It doesn't appear like things get to him mentally. Do you assess it the same way?
That's a good observation, and I can confirm that in the short amount of time that I've been working with him and gotten to know him a little bit. Alonso is a special character. He's a very humble person, hard-working number 9, open for more than you think as a number 9, because usually number 9s could be really focused on outcome only, but he's very interested and very keen to learn how he can influence his outcome to get better numbers. And that is something that is very, very interesting to see in his development.
Yeah, I have a lot of follow-ups there, but I couldn't get too much more deep into it because I wanted to breach some other subjects. But I like the fact that he's talking about him working on ways. I thought he was going to say to help get his teammates involved. But no, he said he's working on ways for him to get more involved in better positions and off the ball and on the ball. So I think it's
I see that, Glenn, because there's a lot of times during the game that it doesn't seem that Martinez is very involved. And it's not like he's not trying. He's making runs. He's trying to get himself into positions, but his teammates don't seem to have the ability sometimes to be able to find him in those positions. And, you got to give credit to the other defensemen, that are marking him and that are marking his teammates that aren't able to find him. But, when they do find him, all right, it's going to be a quality opportunity for New York City to score because he's just that good.
That he isn't. And one of the players that is in charge of getting them the ball is Maxi Morales, the playmaker. Now, Maxi, he was exhausted at about the 70-minute mark, and he's played a lot of minutes as a 38-year-old. But you've heard from week to week Pascal Janssen talk about making certain that they really manage his minutes. But I addressed Maxi Morales with Pascal Janssen today, and here's some more with Pascal. Is it fair to say your team is playing 2 ways, with Maxi and without?
Yeah, up to a certain extent it is, of course, because Maxi is by far our best number 10. That doesn't mean we have other ideas for other players. I think I mentioned it last week coming out of the Philly game, is that for Fernandez, we're also trying to develop him in different areas on the pitch, which is closer to the role of a number 10 as well.
I was very interested in that post-game comment. So indeed, you're taking a pretty serious look at that, and I believe you also mentioned Hannes Wolf, who you've already placed there, and then you mentioned Johnny Shore. I don't know if you had number 10 in mind with him, but is that
Yeah, it is. If you go back to our preseason matches, there's also a few moments where Johnny was one of the most offensive midfield players. So those are the three characters that I have in mind in order to help and progress and develop in different areas on the pitch. And but for now, like I said, Maxi is our number 10.
So he's searching for an answer without Maxi. Because there's no other Maxi around and no other Maxi has come in through the transfer market. So he's got to take what he has, Roberto. And I really am interested in this Julian Fernandez moving into a more central role. One thing Fernandez will do, he could receive the ball on a half turn and run at the back four. I think we could see that.
And he does right. He doesn't mind taking players on, and I think that's very good. Obviously, not a position that he's played a lot, but at the same time, no reason why you can't believe that he can't be developed there. You've already seen New York City develop two players from a position that they didn't start their careers in, and wound up being successful at it. Tati Castellanos being one, Alonso Martinez being the other. So, sometimes you see things in certain players, maybe they don't see it themselves, and you're able to develop it. So if they can develop Martinez, or rather Julian Fernandez into a 10, then great. They've tried Hannes Wolf there. You also have, maybe not for this game, because I think he's still down with the U18s, Maximo Carrizo, who eventually will be able to grow into that role, you hope, and hopefully this season that he'll be able to do that.
I think Johnny Shore's ahead of him on the depth chart, though. But
Johnny's a 6. He loves being a 6.
But he said Johnny Shore is a 10 candidate. Were you not listening to that? That's why I kind of questioned him. I said, "Are you talking about Shore there?" Or no, because he used him there in the preseason a little bit, and I think. Sorry if that came across harsh, Roberto, but I'm
just scolding me on the air in front of everybody. I'm back. It's no big deal.
I'm back from a trip with like 10 or 11 former high school mates, many of whom I played soccer with, and all we did is give each other crap for 4 days. So
what have we been doing to each other for 10 years?
Well, I know, but it's enhanced right now. It's accentuated right now because of this trip I'm coming off of. But that would be
good with me.
But that would be intriguing as well, because then you've got potentially Hack and Keaton Parks in behind him, and that would put Burke Risa back in the lineup. But like you said,
I don't know if that. I'm not too sure. You're moving Justin Hack right now. I think he really likes what he sees.
Well, or Pereira's got to play. So where's Andres Pereira?
Yeah. So you can put Pereira there, yeah.
Well, he's been training full for 2 weeks. So is he ready to start a game and potentially play 90? I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if they want to push him to that level yet. We'll find out more in New England. And you're playing on turf. And I'm not playing a clip on this, but I made a mention of the turf and the players who have struggled with certain injuries. Keaton Parks, his foot. Tanasievich, his foot. I talked about Maxi Morales, just soft tissue injuries. A guy at his age more susceptible to that sort of thing. But he said the turf, he's not, at least, and I trust Pascal, because this next clip I'm going to play is, I think this guy's been extremely open to us and to the supporters, and he gives very direct responses. He lets us into the behind the scenes world a little bit, which I like, where he calls out Thiago Martins, not just to the team, but also to us. And you didn't have to mention him by name. We all knew who it was, but that's an effective way of doing it. So Roberto, I want to hear your take after I play this. This is fairly long. It's 2 minutes or so, but it's about things that I've noticed and we've noticed about the head coach, Pascal Janssen. You've sent some very direct messages to your team, and you've shared it with supporters, with me in interviews during your presser. You've been very open about things. And I just recall interviewing a Dutch coaching educator once. I think he was at Ajax, Bart
Lochis, I think is it. Anyway, regardless of who it is, he said something which I thought was really interesting. He said one of the keys to our development is that we are direct. And I kind of follow that up because I'm from Jersey, where we're people think we're direct. Sometimes they think we're rude because of the directness. But I'm wondering, is that cultural at all? Do you sense that? Were you raised that way, where the messages are direct? Like, mean no offense, take no offense. You know, it's just I've got to give you the message.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. But it's the tone of the message. And like I said to you guys from day one, I have a team first approach. So nobody is bigger or better or above the team, including the staff, including myself. So all the decisions that I make are always team related. And you can have an off day, you can have a bad day or whatever it is, as long as the team doesn't suffer, then it's okay. And it's my responsibility to make sure that the team does well and stays well throughout matches and gets the results that we're looking for. Me being direct is part of my approach. I would like to call it more transparent. And the things I share with you are well thought of. And always, if I do share them with you, the team or the player in question has had the message before that. So he knows. That's one of my basic principles going into this job, and making sure that everything is very clear in how I do things. And if there's one thing I've learned over the past 3 decades in professional or elite sport, is that people need clarity and need to know where they stand. So there is nothing unclear about your position, and no surprises are there in how we work and how our relationship is. So,
yeah. But do you think it is cultural? Did you notice that growing up in your coaching education and as you developed yourself?
Yeah, it's in my coaching education. It's something that came to surface, and it's also part of who I am and how I've been brought up. So those two things combined make it the way it is.
All right, Coach. Well, if you ever need to be directed me, just go right ahead, man.
I will. Don't worry.
All right. So, it's an effective tool. And when I first started coaching, it's one of the more difficult things. You know, it's tough being direct sometimes, or because it sometimes presents conflict. But the way he has introduced it to the team as he came in preseason, I think it's pretty evident they're getting a grasp of what he expects. I think it seems to be more evident.
Okay, so we know from him that he's born in England and he's raised in Holland, correct? You ever watched Ted Lasso?
I watched Ted Lasso, but don't mention England. That his England upbringing, he wasn't
is
brought
minimal.
up
Is minimal. Yeah. That's why I brought it. That's why I said raised in Holland.
Yeah.
Now there's a character in Ted Lasso who's a Dutch player, and they're always shutting him up because he's always just being blunt and direct 100%. And so, you know, within parody and within comedy, there's always like some sort of truth to those sort of things. So let's be honest. I mean, this is something that, you know, he's been raised with, but he uses it as a very, very effective tool, because when you're blunt, but you're not accusatory, if you know what I mean, right? You're just stating facts and you're trying to help people. It's effective.
That's right. That's right.
It's effective.
So those words, this is one I learned along the way. Mean no offense, take no offense. And that always rang positive and true for me. And it really makes sense, because sometimes you almost have to be in a scolding fashion. But don't take offense, because everything I'm doing is to help you improve as an individual and help the team improve. And you were at training today. I was not. And Pascal raised his voice at one point. I think it's okay to share what he said with the audience. We're not giving away any secrets. But what did he say? And he said it very sternly, because I was on the phone with you and could hear it.
Exactly, which was, everybody close your eyes and figure out who's behind you. Be aware. So he was trying to make everybody aware of where they were, who was behind them, and who was in front, what they were doing. Yeah. And he didn't feel that they were doing that at the time. Now, this was in 11-on-11 in a very, very reduced field. So you don't have much time to react on the ball. You don't have time at all. And so he just wanted to make that clear that everybody had to be aware of their surroundings.
The essence of the game. It's the essence of the game is to be aware of your surroundings. Scan. And it's on both sides of the ball, because some of their defensive breakdowns, and especially on the weak side, the side opposite of the ball, is players shaping their body so they're just looking at the ball rather than opening and seeing all the different avenues that a team can attack against you. And it makes 100% sense.
But what else has to be clear in that situation is that teammates have to help each other, right? All the time we're hearing talk, right? We want to hear you. So what you're supposed to do as a teammate, you're supposed to help your teammate out. So if you're not aware for whatever reason that somebody's behind you, somebody who's near has to alert you that somebody's behind you. So you got to work in conjunction with that as well.
There's some differing theories there, because sometimes that will kind of startle the player as well when they're in complete control of the situation. It's more the responsibility of the player, each individual being aware of what's going on around them and not rely on your teammates. I'm not saying a teammate should never give direction. Where you're going to hear a lot of direction is on the defensive side of the ball, because players behind you have to give you direction. That's imperative. But on the attacking side, I'll tell you, the best teams in the world, they don't say a peep, because they
I agree.
They know what's going on. They know what's going on.
I agree with you. I agree with you that, but I mean, defensively, you've got to be aware that you're going to lose the ball. That somebody. I mean, we see this in basketball, and teammates get pissed off at each other when you're not warned that you're going to be run into a pit. Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's nothing that pisses off a basketball player more than a teammate that was quiet when he's being run into somebody who's like 7'2" and 320. Yeah. You don't want to. Yeah, that's not good.
It is different. It is different than the soccer pitch, and you do have to give those kind of and again, like you said, there's going to be moments where you do want to help your team out verbally. So how about this New England team? Let's I got a couple of Caleb Porter things here, and one is I think pretty interesting how he puts it. Carlos Heel. So they've scored 4 goals this year. Carlos Heel has 3, and Thiago Martins has the other one. In that first New York City game, when New York City went down 1-0 on that own goal, and then came back to win it 2-1. And then Carlos Heel has the other 3, including the game winner from the spot against Atlanta United. He drew the penalty and then converted, and they beat Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz, something that New York City couldn't do. So now you go up to Gillette. This team's feeling a little. Carlos Heel has 115 goal contributions with the Revs. I mean, he's the guy. He's the guy. And they've got Leo Campana and Tomas Shankalai both back from injury. I would doubt that they would start. It's possible, but they are now available. They both came off the bench for brief periods. I think. Well, Campana came in very late. So whether they're ready to start or not.
Chankalai, what did he do? He had a season-ending knee injury last May, so he finally came back. Yeah. He's only played 32 games for New England in total, and he's got 12 goals and 1 assist in that time. So, it's going to be a slightly different team that New York City sees this time than they saw the first time.
So here's Caleb Porter talking about what he feels is important and necessary for this team to they've won 2 out of 3, so obviously they're trying to after a really poor start. So here's Porter, their head coach.
When I have a good season in this league, you can drop a few home results, but not many. So we've dropped a few, and from here on out, we gotta take care of business. It's really important that we keep the momentum. Momentum's huge in this league, and our group has confidence. But as I told them on Tuesday, they have to fight every game. We gave a lot, invested a lot in this game on the road against Atlanta, and it's going to be no different in this game. The players have to show up, and credit goes to them last game, and the credit will go to them this game. But they have to fight. They have to fight, and they have to grind, and they have to claw and scrap. In this league, if you don't do that, you lose.
Yep. And if you don't do it on the U.S. men's national team, international level, you lose. But anyway, that's another story. But
why did that come up exactly?
Oh, because the lack of effort and grit and intensity was evident in the Nations League semis and consolation game. That was the talking point. The talking point is, how could these guys not have the effort, the spirit, and the being proud of what they're wearing? All that. That was like the talking point. But that's what Caleb Porter's saying there. If you ask me, he's, if that's where the psychology of the game and the percentage of it that is effort is, and getting through adversity and all these different things. Everybody has their different percentages they come up with. I'm not sure what mine is, but it's definitely over 50%. And I think you can see with New York City, that was their best effort game was Philadelphia, their best total effort game, I think.
Yeah, I remember Gino Auriemma, the coach for UConn, and he may be the greatest, coach in his field. And he,
any field, any sport.
I mean, he's just brilliant. Yeah. And I liked one of the things that he said, and I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. There's a video of him talking to he's talking to his team, and and he's talking about what he expects from them. And he says, I don't coach effort. I don't coach physicality, like training. He says, I don't coach that. Okay. I expect, if you're here, I expect that to be 100% all the time. That's not even a question. So, but I'm teaching tactics and how to make you a better player, but I'm not coaching effort. We're not doing that. I expect that. And I think that every coach should basically expect that from their teams.
Yeah. And I think that's what Pascal Janssen's doing a bit with, in his own manner, yanking 2 players in the first half, Fernandez and Burke Risa a couple of games ago, maybe not starting certain players, maybe certain players not coming in at all in a game. And so I think he's sending these, some are more loud messages and some are more subtle, just to ultimately get your team to compete game in and game out. You're not always going to make the trap. You're not always going to make the shot. You're not always, you're going to slip and fall. All these things are going to happen that could lead to a goal against, whatever it might be, an own goal. But it can't change the way you go
your
at
mentality.
it.
Yeah, it can't change your mentality. You've got to be, that happens. You get up, you dust yourself off, and you keep on going.
So I'm going to take you back. Remember when Joe Scally was 15 years old, and I'll get to where this relates in a second. And he debuted in the U.S. Open Cup against the Red Bulls. It was a terrible game. Red Bulls clobbered New York City 4-0. But Joe made his debut. He was a sophomore at Sachem North out on the island, and I remember he had an exam that day, like a history exam or something. So he actually got to the stadium a little tardy and was given permission to do so he could finish up his exam. I mention it because Peyton Miller, who will more than likely start at maybe wingback. They played 3 at the back for the first time in their last game and had success. So we may see wingbacks in this one. But anyway, Peyton Miller, 17 years old, will likely start on the left side at wingback. Well, he just graduated high school, but he couldn't go to his graduation. Well, here's Caleb Porter. One of the New England reporters asked him about Miller and graduation and stuff like that. So here's Porter.
He couldn't walk in the graduation, obviously, and because he's a professional soccer player. So we did our own little graduation ceremony real quick in the locker room. It was Pablo Morero's idea, and I thought it was pretty cool. It was awesome to have him walk out and see his teammates, cheer him on.
Pablo Morero, one of Porter's assistant coaches. But that's what you got to do, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool. I like that.
Now, what would have been even more cool is if they brought like Obama in to, give the graduation speech. That's like Rutgers got Obama one year, man. It was one of the coolest things.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So that be that for that game. Now, a couple other MLS notes I wanted to bring up. Like Inter Miami and Messi. So, I mean, they keep breaking records. Messi does. Chicago Fire had their largest crowd in history at Soldier
Yeah.
Field, over 62,000. New England, where we're going this weekend, they had their largest at Gillette. That was over 60,000. That was last year, and it goes on and on. And Miami's undefeated. Columbus Crew's undefeated, and guess what the matchup is this week?
Columbus against Inter Miami.
Yeah.
Guess where it is? In Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep. Well,
And I'm not happy about that. I know that they're selling out the stadium. They're going to get over 60,000. Not the Ursays. I was thinking the wrong guys. Because I said that, now I blew it. The Haslams, who own the Columbus Crew and rescued the Columbus Crew from being moved to Austin.
yeah.
They also own the Cleveland Browns. And so they've moved that game there. Now, I think it's like 2.5 hours to drive from Columbus to Cleveland. I'm just upset for the Columbus Crew fans that, you wait or you want to be able to have that game in either your stadium, most likely, right? But you're having the best game that they're going to play all year, right? The most interesting game that they're going to play in the regular season all year. And you've yanked that from them, and you've taken it away and brought it to Cleveland. And I'm not happy about that. I'm really, really not. I think it's awful that they've done it. And, they'll maybe energize the Cleveland market. Maybe there'll be 2 or 3 people from Cleveland who will now make the trip to Columbus to watch soccer there, if they get interested in the Crew. But I'm not happy to see what happened there, and that they're taking that game away from the Columbus market. I'm not happy at all.
Yeah, they haven't taken the game away from them. All they have to do is hop in a car, drive 2.5 hours, carpool. Everybody's going to get a ticket and go to the game. I'm on the opposite side of this. If you could draw 62,000 for a soccer match, you'd do it.
You have the Horseshoe. Play it at the Horseshoe again. That's where Columbus Crew started their career. That's where they started playing, at the Horseshoe, where Ohio State plays, and play it there. Why are you taking that game away? The opportunity to see Messi, which everybody's willing to pay through the nose for, and you're taking it out of the city. I'm sorry. I totally disagree with you on this. 100%. I mean, that's not even close.
Okay,
I think it's horrible that they did that.
It's not horrible. That's not
horrible.
the word. That's not the word.
Yes, it is. Everybody, chime in. Let us know what you think. What happens if they had taken this game, if they were going to play New York City FC, and they took the game and they played it in Buffalo? Go tell me what you think.
Yeah, well, Buffalo's 5 hours away, so that's a different story. Sorry. I'm not.
Well, I wasn't going to say Albany.
One.
They don't have a 70,000 seat stadium in Albany.
Same MetLife Stadium. So New York
MetLife Stadium is 10 minutes away. That's no big deal. Cleveland's 2.5 hours. How are you making that comparison?
No, you're talking about moving it out of the facility. Who cares about 2.5 hours? That's meaningless.
I don't think so.
It's a road trip. Have fun on the road. It's a road trip. Enjoy it, man. And you're gonna. It's the same. I thought you were talking about the facility. Now you're talking that MetLife is 10 minutes away. What are you kidding me? It's a facility issue for you, isn't it?
No. It's that they've taken it out of the city of Columbus and they moved it to Cleveland. And it wasn't because a stadium wasn't available. They have their own stadium. And John Rojas just chimed in. Hi, John. Good to see you. Yeah, they played a game in LA. They're totally different circumstances. New York City didn't have a stadium, and they were training out in LA. They were training out on the West Coast, and they were playing the Leagues Cup game. I forget against who it was, a team from Costa Rica or Guatemala, one of the two. And they had to play it there because they were going to open the season against the Galaxy and then against Vancouver. So they didn't want to come to New York to play the game in Red Bull Arena. Yeah. So that was the reason for that. But it's true. No, that's one of the 7 stadiums where New York City has hosted a home game.
Well, it's boy, there's a trivia question. So we're still waiting to hear. Did anybody put who the third player to score 5 goals in his first 7 games were in a New York City uniform? We don't have that one yet. John also said that Miami doesn't play in Miami.
40 minutes away in Fort Lauderdale, and they're building a stadium there.
And before we close, we have some U.S. Open Cup stuff too, but let's not do that right now. We'll do that kicking it around. So hang in there, everybody. We'll get to your comments as long as they're clean. Montreal had their first home game because the big Olympic Stadium is being renovated and they couldn't play there. So, 8 games in, they open up at Stade Saputo and lose to Charlotte. Boy, I'll tell you, Charlotte at the top, at or near the top of the table in the East, up there with Miami and Columbus and with the big boys.
Yeah, good for them.
And then there's Vancouver, Roberto. So Brian White scores 4 goals, and now he's the co-leader for the Golden Boot. Ty Baribo, who barely got a sniff last week for Philadelphia against New York City. Yeah, really. He scored his 6 goals in the first 3 games, 5 in the first 2, and now Brian White is he's equaled him with the.
He's been playing really well and scoring important goals. That goal, I mean, the goal that he scored in Monterrey.
Yeah.
I mean, to basically win that series, still, is to me the most important goal he's ever scored. That's not an easy place to play, and for Vancouver to go there but they were winning the game until, a penalty, in 9 minutes into stoppage time. And Sergio Ramos got that, tied it 2-2, but it was too late for Monterrey.
So if he scores 2 goals, or at least 2 goals on Saturday, who are they playing? Ooh, I don't have that in front of me. Anyway, if he scores 2, he'll become the 5th player in league history to score 6 goals over a 2-game span. Can you name the other 4? Boy, this is a night of trivia, Roberto.
All of a sudden, you're giving us a ton of trivia. They play in St. Louis, by the way, at 8:30 on Saturday.
Okay. Oh, I
give you that answer.
The Columbus-Miami game is good for our New York City supporters because when they listen to us on the radio, whether it's in Spanish or English, by syncing it up with the video on Saturday night when we're on the road in New England, whatever you choose to do there, the Miami-Columbus game will have ended. That's a 4:30 or 4:40 p.m. Eastern kickoff. So you can watch that one, and then you can listen to us and watch the boys in blue. So it's Chris Wondolowski, Joseph Martinez, Robbie Keane, and Eddie Johnson.
All right.
Have all scored 6
He's
goals.
doing like a lot of great stuff, Eddie Johnson, with youth soccer.
Yeah.
He's very happy to see. Give him back.
But yep, and I was told I need to get him on my on that other show I do with the coaching stuff. So what is this MLS announcement? TikTok, the official partner of Major League Soccer. Is that new or is that
No, they've renewed it.
They renewed it. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a deal that they have of being able to, I guess, TikTok promotes MLS through their algorithms, so more people see it, that sort of thing. And all we're hoping for, if you're on TikTok in the United States, that the government doesn't ban it, because there's been talk about that.
Yeah, for real.
And I mean, now they want to.
Do we need to do this?
They want to force somebody in the United States to buy it, basically.
As far as our own personal brands are just trying to, continue to push the New York City product like we do, with whatever we do. Do we need to get on this TikTok? I mean, I've got a what do you call it? A subscription, not a subscription. What do you call it? I've applied. Why can't I think? What do you call that when you get on something? You're in it.
You're in it. You're right.
All right. Yeah. So I have
You're there. It's a platform that
I have a login for TikTok, but I put something up like once, like maybe 2 years ago. Now, yeah, we're on Blue Sky.
We're all on Blue Sky.
We're on
Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky. Follow us there.
Yeah,
we're definitely there, and I definitely post a lot of stuff there.
All right, let's kick it around, Roberto.
Do it.
All right, we did mention the U.S. Open Cup a little bit earlier near the top because today it's relevant as New York City has found out that they'll play the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in Pittsburgh along the river. It's a beautiful sight. So if you choose to go out, I think it's a fun night. It's a fun night there. So what are some of the let's put Daniel up. Will New York City FC Let's see what he says. Take the Open Cup seriously. That's back near the beginning, Shane. Yeah, there's so I think they'll take it seriously, but you're not going to see, you may not see Alonso Martinez, you may see Monsef Bakrar play strike. That kind
Here's
of
something that we didn't touch upon, but New York City has 8 games in May. 8 games in May. So you're going to see a lot of rotation. They're going to have to find ways to be able to get some of these players in that haven't been playing, because they got to rest some people. Maxi Morales can't be playing every 3 days. I mean, it's just not possible. So you're going to have to rotate.
Are we forgetting any homegrowns that can play in these games that haven't really played? I mean, Carrizo's going to play in these games, you'd have to think.
I think so.
But now Daniel could come back and say, well, they're not taking it seriously then. I mean, you could say, if you're asking, are they taking it seriously?
Well, they are, but you got to rotate. I mean, you're just like anyplace else.
You made the point. Yeah, you made a good point. I mean, if that's, 8 games in a month, and we've been talking about how Maxi, they've been managing his minutes, and it's just 1 match a week. Once we get into this stage, where you've got U.S. Open Cup, and then later in the year, Leagues Cup, it starts to get a bit crazy.
Well, there is this Kevin De Bruyne guy who's out there and saying that he's leaving Manchester City. I mean, he'd look good. He'd look really good as a 10 for New York City, don't you think? Also, he was one of the 4 teams that he's been linked to, by the way. So now New York City rumors out there that De Bruyne somehow linked to New York City. So the other one was Inter Miami, who have like their discovery rights or something like that. Like, I find the discovery thing hilarious. And then who was the other team that supposedly had them in
Chicago Fire?
Negotiated. The Chicago Fire is allegedly already negotiating. So, and who was LAFC or the Galaxy? I think was the other team.
I don't remember.
Who was up there?
Slightly out of touch the last 2 days. It's
because you're whacking golf balls down in Florida.
Well, and there was a particular, there was a decent amount of imbibing, surrounding those activities too. So it's just been, and the flight to, I'm never going to complain about anything like airlines and whatever it is. But it was a rough trip home. So I'm happy I'm awake for NYCFC Views.
I'm just happy that you're there, because any landing that you can walk away from is a good landing.
Yeah, I'm all for that too. I am all for that too.
Especially after the flight that we had. What was it, from Atlanta? Was that the Atlanta flight that we had to 2 approaches? That was no fun.
I sort of remember. I was trying to forget. KP. I think we need to take everything seriously. Could you throw that one up, Shane? 30 teams, and how many options to win silver? You get the Open Cup, Elvis Cup, Leagues Cup, right? Win silverware, man. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. You get no argument here, KP. But we're gonna see Carrizo play. We're probably but that's why I asked you earlier. We didn't get to that, because isn't it we figured that more homegrowns would play in these, especially the U.S. Open Cup, because they're allowed to come in more frequently. Isn't it?
They don't. It doesn't.
Is it unlimited for U.S. Open?
Is it unlimited against the MLS rules? So I believe so.
I think it's unlimited for U.S. Open Cup. They can come in for There's no short-term loan. I'm pretty sure
they can just play. And so Jacob Arroyave is supposed to be close to returning as well. And then there's a couple of other guys, right? Peter Molinari.
Prince Ampansa.
Prince Ampansa was practicing today, absolutely. So, and then the other kids like Carrizo, Reed, were down still with the U18s.
Yep. Good old Cup. All right. So U.S. Open Cup. Let's see if there's anything else up here that we should. Yeah, then people chiming in about De Bruyne. Of course, come on, that's a no-brainer. But
I'd love to see De Bruyne here. So let me ask you a question, okay? And I'll ask this out to fan world here that are chiming in as well. If De Bruyne comes to New York City, do you think he sells tickets? And if so, how many?
Well, yes. And So let's say they're averaging what, around 22,000 for home games. I don't know. I probably could.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, 20 to 22,000, somewhere in that. But so they got close to 20,000 for Citi Field on a cold, rainy night.
So if it's if his first game is a Yankee Stadium game, they go over 30,000 for that game. I think it's more like, what happens after that, and part of it's going to be performance, and part of it is he's around. So I would say maybe overall, if you took the rest of the season once he arrived in the summer, I'd say maybe on average 2,000 a game. I'll give him 2,000 a game.
Okay, all right. So for New York City, their break-even point at Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, is somewhere around 24,000 people. If they can get 24,000 tickets sold, they've broken even. So anything over that, they actually make a profit. It's very expensive to play there. It's ridiculously expensive to play there. But it's like anything else. It's New York City, which is why, like, for instance, a $20 breakfast in Manhattan is a $9 breakfast in Orangeburg, which is why I love going to Orangeburg to get breakfast before practice. So, I mean, things are just so much more expensive here. And
and I'll tell you what, things are just more expensive everywhere. I can really, and I'm not one that really keeps minute track of every expense, eggs and all that stuff, but holy smokes, things are costing more money. Yeah,
they absolutely are. So if he can bring an extra 2,000 people, if that gets you closer to 24,000, obviously your expenses go up because he's going to cost a little bit of money as well. But then when you start looking at word of mouth, other interest, more people watching maybe on Apple TV, more people listening to your broadcast, more people listening to my broadcast, then all of that starts adding up. We know that merchandise, it doesn't matter how many sells. That helps the league. It doesn't help the team. We have found out that if teams make like maybe 10% of what a jersey costs, the league gets the lion's share of the money along with Adidas. So that doesn't move the needle for them. But
if it's this is where I wonder if there's conflict in the organization ever, where this is where maybe the club can make maybe a lot of money off of this, off a deal like that. Yet on the sporting side, they've been reluctant. Now, this guy is of a different ilk. I don't know about you, Roberto, but I would say, and this is for me, so don't be throwing daggers at me or anything, but even ahead of Mo Salah, Kevin De Bruyne is as far as watching him play over the last 7 or 8 years, no one gives me more joy watching a game than Kevin De Bruyne.
The vision he has is just like otherworldly. I mean, he's on just an absolute different level, and
then he
not
can
only
deliver.
that,
but he can deliver it after he sees it, and that's the
that's the key, right? But also somebody like him is also going to get you more attention in media. There's no, I mean, I'd be shocked that if somebody like him comes here, that the Daily News and the New York Post and Newsday still stay away.
Well, you're going to get. I mean, remember when Lampard was around? You're getting international reporters coming to certain
that
games,
as well. And we're a New York team, and a New York team should be an international team. We shouldn't be just we're 5 boroughs and we don't really care what happens in Westchester or New Jersey or Connecticut, Long Island, or Mexico City, Buenos Aires, London, and Paris. You should care. You want this team to be well known all over the world. It's a New York City team. And
you're of a mentality, if you brought a De Bruyne in, you're going to win more games. I mean,
that
100%. And you're going to gain more points, which could put you in the top 4. And now you're home for the playoffs, and all these different things could happen. And it's interesting. I don't know how you measure everything that you've been talking about, but I think that's certainly something that you'd have to think about.
It's an investment in marketing as well, just like anything else. You're going to bring attention to the team that you're not. Now, I know that they've been very, very reluctant since, via Lampard and Pirlo, but if you get the right guy, to bring him in.
And that's what David Lee has told us before. I remember saying to him once something to the effect, "Well, you're not going to bring in the high priced talent, the superstar. It's pretty odd." And he goes, "I don't remember ever saying that. It's if it's the right guy at a price that the club can figure that will work." And I think all those factors that you've mentioned are a big part of it. So, well, I have to admit, I didn't realize his name had come up in rumors for the New York City Football Club. So, of course, it's a rumor. I don't know where you got this source.
It was on it was on social media. It's nothing that I have learned privately or anything.
But
I'm just reacting to what I've seen on social media. That the 4 teams that were interested in New York City.
But who put it up there?
I don't remember.
Okay, but it depends on who put it up there, because sometimes some people put it.
It
up
was
there
it was like. It wasn't Romano. It wasn't Fabrizio Romano, but it was one of the people that talk about MLS all the time.
Okay. Well, it'd be.
Hey, by the way,
might be a fun couple weeks.
If it's right or it's not right, love me. You know what I say: love me, hate me, don't ignore me. So the best thing that if it turns out that it's not true, then so be it. But I prefer for New York City to be talked about in all of this, because it makes them more relevant. If they get them, they get them. They don't get them, they don't get them. But I'd love to see Kevin De Bruyne in this league. I think he would be a fantastic asset. And we hope that he's got enough left in the tank that he'd be able to perform at a very high level. We don't want to see what happened like in LA with Giroud, who has yet to score a goal in an MLS game.
Yep.
And that's the worrisome part, and that's the part that this team worries about. And I get that.
Yeah, but have you watched him play recently? He's okay. He's okay. Final thought here, and I'm taking a turn here, Roberto, because I found this mighty interesting, because we are both, as are probably everybody that's listening or watching us, glued to our cell phones. And if you're parents out there, maybe you have some cell phone rules within your house or with your children. We know that at schools, we know they have certain rules. How about, I didn't know this until I read this morning. The Masters Golf Tournament, which I followed pretty closely this year. For spectators who go in, there are no cell phones allowed on the campus. And here are some of the reactions from players. First, a former Masters champ, Jordan Spieth. So if you follow golf, you know this guy. He said it creates an amazing atmosphere for players and fans because you feel like everyone is very, very present. And this is honestly what I say to my children when we put our phones down if we're together for dinner or something, that you're more present if you're not on your phone. Then Ludvig Åberg, he's a Swedish golfer. He said it created a more engaged audience. It's a lot more eye contact with the fans. This is interesting because golfers are walking, and the people are all around them. You can really tell that they watch and appreciate good golf. And then Caitlin Clark was there as a spectator, and she said the absence of cell phones helped make the Masters her #1 sporting event she's ever attended. Pretty interesting, Roberto, right?
That's great. By the way, they named the Time 100 like most interesting people or whatever. How is Caitlin Clark, or most important or influential people, how is Caitlin Clark not on that list? She elevated not only women's college basketball, the WNBA, women's sports in general, more than any single person in the history of women's sports. And she's not in the 100 most influential people? What the hell is Time Magazine doing?
I don't know. Get on the editorial board there, Roberto, and see what you can do, man. Let's make it right. They had, I guess the WNBA just had their draft, and they had an incredible audience, but it was half as much as a year ago when Caitlin Clark was drafted. Yeah, so what she's done has really been remarkable. All right, so we are on the road. Roberto will join me for NYCFC pregame live at 6:45. So your Views Live podcasters will be live at Gillette Stadium. 45
I'll stay in
minutes
English.
kickoff.
I'll speak in English.
Yeah, and Roberto will speak in English. And then we will be on our separate broadcast beginning at 7:15 for our pregame shows on the New York City FC network. So, big one, big one because New York City on the road over the last 3 years, not pretty. So, and Pascal Janssen, as I said to him today, I know you weren't here. I don't like to talk about the past, but it's tough talking about the road with the New York City Football Club. So let's see if they can get win number 1 away from home in 2025. For Roberto, I'm Glenn. Thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to talking to you on Saturday. Have a good night.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.